Hello team, welcome back. And today we are going to discuss about the second resolution of the persistent data problem, which is bind mounts. So in the previous lecture, we have discussed about the volumes and we have seen how we can create the volume, how we can create the custom volumes and how we can map the running containers with the existing volumes. Today we will see what is the bind mounts and how we can create the bind mounts and how we can use the bind mounts. So let's start with. So first we will try to understand the bind mounts. So team bind mounts means a file or a directory on the host machine which is mounted into a container. It means when we are saying we are using bind mounts inside the containers, then we are mounting the existing directory on the host machine with the directory which is present inside the container, right? So we are mapping the file of a host machine into a container file. So this is called bind mounts. We are mounting the container directory and the host machine directory together, right? This is quite different with the volumes. We will see what is the difference between the volumes and the bind mounts as well. Bind mounts may be stored anywhere on the host machine, right? Although the volumes also store on the host machine, right? This is the first difference between the bind mount and the host machine, that non-Docker processes on the Docker host machine can access the bind mounts and modify them. This is not possible with the volumes. If we are using the volumes, then non-Docker process cannot modify or access that particular volume inside the container. But if we are using the bind mount, we are mounting the directory on the host machine with the running directory inside the containers. Then any non-Docker process can access that particular directory and can change anything in that particular directory. But there is a benefit as well. If we are running in the development environment where we are building our project regularly, right? And we want that my container every time use some new code, right? So we can replace the jar every time inside the running container. We cannot need to start the container again and again, right? So by this way we can change anything inside the running container as well, right? So with the help of the bind mounts we can change anything inside the running container as well. But there's a limitation with the bind mount as well, like volume can be used inside the Docker file because that is not a hard code location on the because that is not a hard code location on the host machine, right? But bind mounts cannot be used inside the Docker file. You cannot define the bind mounts inside the Docker file. But if you're using the Docker file, you can use the volumes. So this is the difference between the bind mounts and the volumes. The advantage of the bind mounts over the volumes and the advantage of the volumes over the bind mounts, right? Now let's discuss some good use cases of the bind mounts as well. Sharing the configuration file from the host machine to the containers. With the help of the bind mounts, we can share the configuration files from the host machine to the containers. Suppose we have a requirement that my containers need to modify some configuration on a host machine, right? So this is possible with the help of the bind mounts. And in some case, we need to upload some new configuration inside the container. That is also possible with the help of the bind mounts, right? Sharing the source code, or you can say the build artifacts between the development environment on the Docker host and the container. So as we have discussed, suppose my container every time needs to access the new code, the changes which developer are doing, then we can mount the directory which is present on a host machine with the container, right? And container will always access that part, and container will be allowed to access any data which is present inside that particular directory. So these are some good use cases of the bind mount as well, right? Now let's start Nginx container with the bind mounts. So to start Nginx container with the bind mount, we need to use the below commands, right? We need to execute a command like docker container run -d for the detach mode, --name, we can provide the container name, and then we can use --mount, right? Then we need to define the type of the mount, which is bind, then comma, source equal to $pwd. It means use the current directory, right? If you don't want to use the current directory, you can define the hardcore directory over here. And then we need to define the target, right? Target means which directory inside the container will be mounted with this particular source directory, and then you can define your image name, right? So let's go to hub.container.com and verify the docker file of the nginx, right? So we will go to hub.docker.com, login into account, and once you will be logging into your account, search for the nginx. So you can see here we have the official nginx image, right? I will click this and then I will click on the docker file. So we will verify the Docker file of the nginx. So over here we have the from, we have the label and environment and run command, right? Once we will scroll down, we are getting run and expose and stop signal and cmd. We are not getting any kind of bind mount or volumes, right? So how we can start the nginx with the help of the bind mounts, right? So let's go to the terminal. So we are inside the root location, execute pwd. So we are at a root, right? Suppose I will create a directory like mkdir docker bind, right? And go to docker bind, right? So you can see if I will execute pwd, I'm inside the root and docker bind. Now suppose I want to start nginx, right? And I want to bind my current directory with the nginx working directory. So I need to execute a command docker run docker container run hyphen d hyphen name, and I will call it nginx bind, right? Hyphen mount space type equals to bind comma source, then equals to dollar bracket, and inside the bracket define pwd. It means current running directory, right? Then define the target, and suppose I want to define the target like app, then you need to define the nginx, which is image name. Hit enter. Oh, there is a spelling mistake inside the target. This is target. So you can see it is downloading the nginx image, and container with this particular id is being started. If I will execute a command docker ps, then you can see the nginx is running, right? And the container name is nginx bind, right? Let me clear out my console, and I will execute docker inspect nginx bind, right? I will scroll a bit until I will find out the mount location, and you can see over here we are getting the mount location, and mount is destination is underscore app and source is root docker bind, right? So you can see if we will go to the running container, so I will execute a command docker exec hyphen it nginx bind bash, right? And I will hit enter button. So you can see I'm right now I'm so you can see right now I'm inside the running container. If I will enter ls, then over here we have the directory app. I will go to this directory cd app, right? Put ls, so there is nothing, it means ls hyphen al. So there is no file, right? There is total 8 files, but all are hidden. Now I will open another terminal. So you can see right now I am working on the two terminals. This terminal where I am present inside the container, and this terminal where I am present inside my host machine. So I will clear out the console, and I will go to the directory docker bind, right? And suppose over here in this particular directory, execute pwd. So I am present inside the root docker bind. This is the same directory which I have mounted inside the container and apps directory, right? Suppose I will create some file over here. So I will create a file like echo hi, this is custom file, and I will save it inside the test.txt. Hit enter, put ls, then you can see the test.txt is present inside my local file system. Now I will go to inside my containers and again put ls. Then you can see the test.txt is also present over here. Earlier this file was not present over here. As soon as I have created that particular file test.txt in my local machine at a location which I have mounted with the container, so same file is present inside the container as well, right? So by this way we can see we can change anything on a host file system, and that thing will reflect inside the running container. If I will create another file like touch anshul test.txt, hit enter, and I will switch the terminal, again execute the ls-al. Then you can see this file is also being created inside the running container. They over here we are present inside the container, and over here we are present inside the local file system. See, so I'm changing something inside my local file system, and that change is being reflected inside the running container, right? So this is the benefit of the bind mounts. You can change anything inside the mounted location, and that will reflect inside the running container. So you can see over here I'm able to access the bind mount location in my local file system with a non-dockerized process. I'm using my terminal. This is not a dockerized process, so non-dockerized service can also access the bind mounts and modify the file system, right? So team, we have seen how we can use the bind mount, how we can use the bind mounts with the container, how we can mount the local file system with the running container, and how we can use them, and what are the benefits and drawback of the bind mounts, right? We have already seen the volumes in the last lecture. So this is all about the data management of the containers, right? This is the way how we can manage the persistent data of the containers in a local file system or in the volumes, right? So thank you team, thanks for your time. If you have any question regarding the volumes, data management and the bind mounts, then you can put your question inside the question and answer forum, and I will be happy to answer. Thank you team, thanks for your time.